guys that are already here, let me know. Oh no, it's good. Broadcasting. Guys, let me know if you hear us with a quick okay or with a quick gains in the chat. Nice.
Yeah, if guys
So,
have any questions as well, you can just read them out to me because I can't see them on a
mhm,
like Hangouts here. So definitely let me know.
that's fine, man. It's awesome. So, guys, hello and welcome. Charlie here. I'm the co-founder of the Lifestyle Design Convention. Today I'm a bit more excited than normally because we have Mario Tomic with us. Right, it's Tomic.
Yeah, you
Mario
pronounce it
Tomic.
correctly. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And he's actually a fitness YouTuber, and I'm really a big fan of fitness, gym, nutrition, everything. So I thought it would be really cool to have a webinar about this and yeah, to share some value with you guys. So hello Mario, nice to have you here.
Hey Charlie, nice to talk to you again.
Nice. So just so people know, do you have like a quick story about yourself, how you came into fitness, gym, and everything?
Yeah, I guess people would be able to resonate with my story, and I got asked this question quite a few times. Practically, it started by me destroying my health completely during the college years, going into party modes, beer pong, and just drinking myself to death, which was I guess, a common thing for most people, at least in Croatia. Drinking culture is really big there. And I also was really big into gaming. So a combination of being a borderline alcoholic and a World of Warcraft gamer with low social skills, you can imagine how that turned out. But then after the college ended, I was kind of left with not a clear path what to do, and my health was completely ruined by then. I was very overweight. I was at 90 kilos, 95, I think, at some point, and I'm a meter 80. So after squats, probably meter 79. So once I reached that point, I was like, okay, I'm not feeling good. And I wasn't even aware of how I was feeling. So it kind of started all with being self-aware. As when you're drinking, when you're stuck in that gaming mode, self-awareness is really low. So you don't really know what's happening in your life. You're not taking responsibility for anything, especially as a college student. You're just given some money to live, and your job is to get good grades. So you're just focused on that outcome. So you don't even know what's happening with yourself in the moment. Once I finished that, I was like, oh, damn it, it's really time to get this thing handled. I don't feel good. And I started working, I started a job. And actually, my first thing that I did in fitness was completely wrong. So I did a crash diet.
Like
That
what
was
to
the
do?
first thing. That was the first thing I did. I did a massive crash diet. I was doing a ton of cardio, and I ate like, I don't know, I think 1,000 calories a day. I had only one meal and a protein shake. So I did that. I lost a bunch of weight. I would not recommend that for anybody because I felt like crap most of the time. I was really anxious. I drank a lot of coffee because I believe that coffee was supposed to help. I mean, it does help a little bit, but I drank a ridiculous amount. And once I got from that stage where I got a little bit leaner, luckily for me, I had still had my kind of gaming approach. So I decided to seek out people who are better than me. And I went out and having not a lot of friends, I went into the forums. And when I went into the forums, I actually encountered a nice forum in a Croatian bodybuilding forum. And I got to build my reputation there slowly. And as I read and absorbed more and more, I get more and more knowledgeable. That kind of escalated into me reading a lot of more books, seeking out content in English, which wasn't something like back then. The whole fitness evidence based approach wasn't that like famous as now. So don't have a lot of YouTubers back then. It was just a kind of bro sciencey, as everything was bro sciencey. But still, it worked. And I mean, I'm here today because of some of those things that I did in the past, and I feel like the story will. A lot of people resonate with this, with the like horrible college years going into being more serious, taking responsibility for your life. I think that's a big one. And same happened for me, like self-awareness, taking responsibility, and then just escalating from there. I mean, there's no limit once you actually like pull that trigger and say it's on me, or I'm in control. So
Mhm.
that was kind of the tipping point, I would say.
Yeah, like stop blaming other people and your circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that blame was going for a very long time. Even when I ended college, I didn't have a job. I would still blame the government, blame, I don't know, my parents or someone else. Like, it doesn't even matter who you blame. Obviously, you're just letting go of control. And then again, once I realized, okay, if I take control, at least I can make a difference. And I mean, it did work, obviously, because I'm here today. So,
Yeah,
and
nice.
it's a cool ending.
Nice, yeah, man. Nice. I mean, you even have a YouTube channel right now, so I mean, it's a really cool ending.
Yeah, it escalated to me being a coach to for others, and I would, if you would met me like 6 7 years ago, and if you would say, okay, this guy is actually gonna coach people one day, you
Yeah.
would be completely shocked. Like, you would be flabbergasted. Like, it would be, what the fuck is this person gonna teach somebody?
Mhm.
Except maybe how to get good at I don't know, like a level 70 paladin or something. That would be my that would be my expertise. But
Yeah.
besides that, filming videos or something like that was completely off the limits. I was an introvert, not having a lot of friends and things like that.
Mhm.
So,
I have a personal question. When do you became a trainer actually? Like 1 year ago? Some years ago?
that was 2.5 years ago. I
Uh,
started doing some training just in person, but then afterwards, I just switched to online about a year and a half ago, because I feel like with online you can reach a lot more people, you can help a lot more people. In person, it's fine, but it doesn't fit my current lifestyle, which is a lot of travel involved. So I feel like online is just the way. I mean, I feel like that's the way the world will evolve eventually into. So why just not be one of the first ones to actually prioritize online instead of in person?
yeah, nice, nice. So yeah, let's dive into some questions I prepared because
I'm
you
excited as well.
already. What do you mean?
Yeah, go ahead with questions. I'm excited to see what you guys
Ah,
have prepared.
nice. Because you already mentioned it. Like you made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and honestly, me too. And I every day I see like people making like these stupid newbie mistakes. So, what can you recommend when you start? What are like the basics if you want to gain like lean muscle mass as a beginner? If you start out with it, like the
Yeah,
basics.
that's. I think that's one of the most common questions you get from guys, is that first they want to be ready to start, and I would say that's the first limiting belief you want to limit, like, you want to get away from, is just trying to be ready to start. So whatever program you start doing is better than no program whatsoever. But then again, once you have that made decision, okay, let's start, how do you actually do it? Well, you want to look at the context of the situation right now. So, what is your current situation? Are you skinny fat? Are you obese? Are you just a normal guy who's just skinny and wants to put on some mass? And depending on that, that's where how you're going to calibrate your diet. As a newbie, you're going to have a lot of potential for gaining. So it's not uncommon to gain about 20 pounds or 10 kilos for you guys from Europe in just your first year of training. And 10 kilos of lean mass is a lot. That makes a
Mhm.
huge difference on your frame. You're gonna like completely change all your clothes. Everybody's gonna just notice the massive difference you made. So in terms of like simply dieting, that's something you would primarily based on how your situation is right now. So if someone is skinny fat, I mean, you can still do a bulk. As a newbie, you can still do a bulk. I would not suggest an extreme bulk, but depending on what your current situation is, you can definitely go into that. If someone is an obese individual or higher body fat, you don't even have to be obese. Just if you're fat, I mean, like I was, first I started with a diet, and I would recommend that as well. So if you're above that range of 15, 16% body fat, I would definitely recommend starting on a diet and just getting yourself lean, and in the process you're going to build a lot of muscle. And that's the first thing I would say. If you're not in that range of where you can see at least the top of your abs, then it's time to diet down a little bit, and you're going to look better. You're going to be looking much closer to what you actually want to look like than if you go on an extreme bulk, which is going to result in a little fat burn, but a little bit more muscle gain. But that's a trade-off that you have to live with if you decide to go that route. But I mean, I recommend always, if you're not lean enough, get lean first, and then in that position, you're insulin sensitivity and all these other factors will help you build more lean muscle, and it's a better long-term approach than just going into extreme bulking periods like, I don't know, GOMAD or something like gallon of milk a day. That's a very famous approach.
Yeah.
So I would not recommend going in these. In terms of training, you want to put training in the right context of how you're capable of executing a program. So if you're someone with a sports background, if you have good mobility in terms of like squats and deadlifts, if you can actually do them like within a few weeks, I would recommend then doing something that where you would focus mainly on those compound lifts. But if you're not someone who has ever lifted before in their life, no sport background whatsoever, if you can only quarter squats and then afterwards you just can't even like crouch down further, then I would say really want to work on learning those movements, but also in that same time while you're learning to squat, I would include a lot more machine work and a lot of more like quote unquote isolation stuff, just to compensate for the fact that you're not able to get enough volume of work from those compound lifts, which I think is a lot for a lot of guys a problem, because they want to start working out and they take a program like 5x5, which I'm sure you guys have all heard of, and they try to do because heavily based on squats, but then their squats end up being like a quarter squat, which doesn't generate any stimulation toward muscle gain or strength gain. It's just because they are limited in mobility and flexibility. So that's the first thing you want to work on, is getting that actual form down so you can get the benefits from the lifts. And while you're doing that, I wouldn't stray from like recommending doing a massive amount of leg pressing, whatever it takes basically to get that growth and to build some muscle in the beginning first year, until you also master at least for like a month or two, until you get down to that squat that is at least below parallel. Then you can actually start doing squats. And after you get squats, let's say a typical progression would be like body weight squat. Once you get down, once you do the body weight squat properly, you can switch to a goblet squat. Once you do the goblet squat, you can slowly start moving into the real squat. And eventually, once you master the squat, that's going to be your base, and you're going to pretty much be squatting for the rest of your life as long as you work out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the progression with the plan. And if you can already start doing squats, then there's nothing preventing you from structuring your program primarily around compound lifts. I would always recommend structuring, doing all those, the big three, the deadlift, squat, and the bench press. Don't be afraid of any of them. Just master form, learn good form. There's plenty of videos out there. I put up videos myself. There's every day there's a new YouTuber born that does fitness. So there's going to be an abundance of videos. In terms of like the actual program itself, you also want to see what's sustainable for you. If you're a guy who can exercise 5 times a week, why not try that out for like 30 to 45-minute sessions? If you're someone who can exercise only 3 times a week, then you can do like 3 full body sessions. Or depending on basically your context of your lifestyle, you would choose a program that fits you and also your physical abilities. And for my clients, I have a pretty long damn question, like a damn long questionnaire to determine of what the situation is that you're currently dealing with, what's your experience. And based on that, you actually can create a program. And that's something I would look for everybody, is I would just encourage them to look into the context of how these programs are made and if they're really for you, and try to adapt it as much as you can for your current situation, instead of, I guess, trying to like make something unsustainable that you're gonna hate. So that's gonna be making your life worse, basically.
Nice. Like that. So also, like you already talked about it. So as many newbies also ask me if they can like gain muscle mass and lose fat at the same time. And I guess as a newbie, how you said, it's possible, but I guess when you are like when you train like for 5 years, it's not possible anymore. What's your opinion on that?
Well, it is one of those things that obviously it's possible, but is it something that you really want to do? And that's where we come into confusion. As someone who's just starting out, if you're a skinny male and you're just starting out, you never lifted in your life before, you can obviously gain muscle and burn fat at the same time, because you're simply going to put on a massive amount of muscle mass. And even if you do put on some fat, you technically decrease your body fat if you've gained a lot of weight, right? Because body fat is based per percentage. So you're going to look leaner and more ripped, even though you're possibly increased a few pounds of your fat mass. And when it comes to burning fat and building muscle as like an intermediate, it's not the most optimal approach for people. I think it comes down to the fact that most people think that they can actually bulk. So a true muscle gaining phase is something like building muscle and burning fat at the same time. I'm not sure if people actually understand, but if you're past that newbie gains phase, there's no more bulking. Like there's no more bulking. Like you can't technically bulk because the rate of muscle growth that you will experience is so low that you're not gonna, like, all that extra calorie intake will simply go to fat. You're just gonna become chubby. You're not gonna gain anything. And you can base your diet around your potential, because what is the nutrition is simply a permission for muscle to grow. So you can only have 100% permission. So everything else that above that will be going to fat. So that's something that a lot of guys confuse, is that in the first year of bulking, let's say bulking, you gain like that 20 pounds, 25 pounds of body mass. The second year, they try to repeat the same process. What happens is that they just become fat. And simply because you're closer to your genetic potential of how much muscle you can carry for your frame, for your bones, and your genetics overall. So there's no point in actually doing the bulk again, because you're just, when you lean down after that huge bulk, you just realize you gain very insignificant amount of muscle, which you could have done slower. So I'm more of an advocate of doing like a very slow lean gaining kind of thing, rather than trying to do some form of like bulk. But gaining muscle and losing fat, it's a big debate. I mean, I would say it's possible, but it's not an approach that you would actually want to do. It's more of an inefficient way to diet down. So if you want to diet down, there's certain ways how to do that, and you're always going to be striving toward like making the diet as efficient and short as possible. So in that way, I don't see the point of going in a recomp. If your goal is to simply get shredded, it's a much better approach to just focus on that and make your training plan as optimal as it could be. So if you did that novel stimulants, you're still gonna gain some muscle and strength, even on a diet. But on a bulk, I mean, it's gonna be a slow bulk anyway, unless you're like a beginner. So it's kind of a debate for not many reasons, because it's just not relevant in a real life scenario, as it's not many people would actually want to like try to do that. And even with the studies that did came out on the people that did burn fat and gain muscle at the same time, one of the most famous ones was like they took endurance athletes, like elite endurance athletes. What happened is that these guys did gain mass, but they gained mass only in the upper body, right? So the muscle that is new to weight training will increase in mass despite the fact that you burn fat, like this, or despite that you're, let's say, in a calorie surplus and you still burn fat. But it's just because the muscle is new to the stimulants. It's not because the thing would work on someone who's already been weight training for a few years and has pretty much reached that genetic potential to some degree. So yeah, I mean, as I said, it's a bit of a complicated topic, but I would not recommend that approach, because it's just gonna not bring you closer to any of the two goals. So I would say more like slower bulk if you're being experienced. If you're a beginner, then definitely eat a shit ton. If you're skinny, if you're above 15-16% body fat, I recommend definitely going into a diet. So just dieting down to about where you can see your abs, and then slowly start building muscle. And this question is only a question, I guess, for guys who haven't been lifting for a while, and then you're kind of not sure what to do. But if you've been lifting for a while, this kind of solves itself, because you know your current situation better, and it won't even occur to your mind, because you know how realistic gains are, like how slow gains are made. You're more realistic when it comes to that.
Yeah, yeah. So as a newbie, how you said, you should always decide if you want to like gain muscle mass or lose fat. And
I
then
would
like,
say that that would work for the majority of people, and it also depends on your current situation, right? So if
mhm,
you're someone who is overweight, you can definitely go into a diet and still build a lot of muscle because you have that energy potential because you have so much fat storage, and you're going to be burning those fat reserves for energy. So you're going to be burning fat, and you're going to be building muscle. That's for a newbie who's overweight. For a newbie who's
mhm.
super lean and skinny, you obviously that's not even a question then because you can just simply eat a lot and build a lot of muscle. So it's not going to be even a question of debate.
Nice. I like that approach. Yeah, yeah, totally agree. So, what are also the? I know you did a diet like some months ago, right? Where you have been at like seven. I mean, you're still like at 7-8% body fat. You said.
Yeah, I'm pretty lean at the moment. I'm happy with how the diet went. I was I was quite shocked myself how little effort it took now to get to the same point that I practically killed myself a few years ago to achieve.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, what are the basics for getting so shredded? Actually?
I guess the biggest changes that I had, I was more focused on tracking right now. So I was really rigorous on tracking. I think that's one of the habits that makes the most difference when it comes to nutrition in general. It's just simply being aware of what you're eating, what your macros are, what your caloric intake is. And once you're aware of these factors, you can actually start tweaking them in a right direction. And I also attribute a lot of the success toward just knowing what is the what is the body responding to, and that's the kind of thing that you know the ratio of like fats and carbs that you can get away with your current lifestyle. You know what your patterns are when it comes to overeating. You know how much protein you need. Your workout plan is a lot better as well, so you don't need to do almost any cardio. I did like, I don't know, 2 runs in the whole like 4 or 5 months of like leaning down. I just did 2 3 sessions of cardio in total because it wasn't necessary. I was just keeping on my diet, and I was simply cutting down just by doing that half a pound a week that we seek, like half a pound to a pound a week. I decided to go for a slower approach, but I mean, general, if you're between like 12 and 16% body fat, that means like, let's say you can see your abs a little bit. I would recommend the basic would be just finding your caloric intake that would yield about a half a kilo loss per week. So whatever that caloric intake will be, you find that first. How you gonna go to that number? It's, you can either use a calculator or you can use a combination of a calculator and a correlation between your current weight and your intake. What I mean by that is that you're gonna be tracking your current intake of food, and you're gonna see, okay, this intake of food is either staying the same weight or losing weight or gaining weight. Once you've figured that out, let's say you find, okay, this food is me maintaining weight, then you just say, okay, I'm going to cut out 300 calories a week and 300 calories per day and see how that reflects my weekly average weight. Once you get to that half a kilo loss per week, simply maintaining that and just doing everything you can to stay on track pretty much will get you there. You know, there's not much of super complicated science there. I mean, the only question is whether you cut it from fat or carbs, like where you cut those calories, because the protein intake will be consistent for most of your, I mean, even your training career, your protein will be quite consistent because the muscle mass doesn't change much. And when you do carbs and fats, that many variables into account. One that I use most commonly is my lifestyle right now allowing me to focus on, I don't know, eating only more carbs, right? Or just being low fat. So that's one of the things where you want to see, okay, can you actually have a flexible diet if you keep your fat very low? In my case, I can't. So I like to balance those two out. So I'll probably cut out 50% of those calories from carbs, 50% from fat. So it's going to be a balanced approach in my case. For people that are responding poorly to high carb intake, because there's a subculture of people who respond horribly to high carb intake, like puts them to sleep immediately. I would say then in that context, you would try to reduce the carbs and get the calories from fat and protein. I mean, both approaches are valid and both approaches work. I mean, anything that takes into consideration that you have your macros managed and you have your calories, and you're going to be losing weight if your training plan is good. All the other factors, I mean, like nutrient timing, supplements, you see that I don't even talk about it that much,
Yeah.
and things like, let's say, one of the like food composition, which foods you eat, and all these things. I mean, they play a very minor role, and I'm more of a person that's going to focus on the 20% that's going to get me the 80% results, as that's my typical approach, and I'm very pragmatic when it comes to that. I would rather do that than I don't know, try to optimize my nutrient timing around workout. I'll try to get some protein, but I'm not gonna die for it. I'm just gonna continue working and hustling, because that's my top priority, rather than trying to like micromanage everything and create a lot of stress. And also
Mm.
the factor that I'm a lot less stressed now. I mean, I get a lot more sleep, which is something that I think people often mismanage when it comes to the diet.
Yeah.
I get like 9 hours of sleep, so I think that's one of the primary reasons why my dad was so successful, and
Mhm.
why I gained so much strength, even despite the fact that I'm cutting, because I just got like a really good recovery and less stress, doing things like yoga, like doing all these things that help me out with sleep, like blocking out noise, blocking out blue light, and all these things that just put me in like a 9 hour of quality sleep at night, just improved my life in general. So I think that was the primary factor that allowed me to burn a significant amount of fat versus like muscle that I used to do in the past. So, and that, and avoiding cardio, because of
Mhm.
basically it's not a good idea if your goal is to maintain muscle, for me at least.
I hear that a lot also from all the trainers. They always say that they do too much cardio during their first diet. I hear it every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a thing that we're not sure to what extent a person can do cardio until we actually test it on them. And one of the main reasons why we did a switch from, let's say, steady state cardio, which like just running and treadmill, to HIIT, was because the steady state cardio was so detrimental toward maintaining muscle mass, and it just puts the adaptation in wrong direction, right? You're adapting toward endurance instead of continuing to adapting towards strength, which is the primary goal for us, like strength and muscle mass. So we moved from like steady state cardio to, let's say, high intensity cardio. But then what I'm moving toward now, and what a lot of trainers are moving toward now, is from high intensity cardio into barbell complexes cardio. So I like to call that squat cardio, right? Or Olympic lifts as cardio. So you're gonna keep your rest really low, and you're gonna do movements that you're kind of familiar with, such as like clean and press, squat, deadlift, as cardio. So very low weight, very high intensity. So that's gonna be the preferred form of cardio, because it's gonna add more, I guess, more ability in your under your belt, because you're gonna learn the skill set more. You're gonna have a lot more practice with the lifts, and you're gonna get the same response from your upper heart rate. It's same as similar to HIIT, so very very close to that, and you get kind of the best of the both worlds there. And that would be the approach that I took right now. So I didn't do running or anything like that for cardio, or swimming or whatever. I just did barbell complexes. So that's,
Mhm.
if someone is wondering what form of cardio
Mhm.
to do.
Nice, nice. And you also talked about carbs and fats. And I'm really curious, what's the minimum of fat intake you had during your diet or with your clients?
Well, for my specifically for my dad, I don't think I ever dropped under 60 grams a day. So
Okay.
that was the bare minimum. Because if I drop under that, I won't be able to have my chocolate cake. So
Nice.
anything
You,
lower than that is just I won't have any fat left for chocolate. So that's not acceptable.
nice. You remind me of this Greg or Gallagher guy. You know him, Kino Body from YouTube.
Yeah, Greg is definitely a cool guy. I mean, I've been following his stuff as well for a while, so
Nice.
he's cool.
And he's also always eating his chocolate. You know, like I
Yeah,
just had
dude,
to
like
think about it.
dark chocolate is a crucial element when it comes to my diet. So that's the thing I crave the most when I diet down. So it's the one thing that I always include in my diet to maintain sanity.
Yeah, like I love this 70% chocolate, cacao chocolate. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's from Lindt or from other
Oh,
companies.
this one. Yeah. I mean, I live in Switzerland, and
Yeah, you
like,
guys have the best cows.
yeah, it's really difficult to diet down here, but it's cool. You do what you can. So, yeah, I also want to ask you. Yeah, actually, we talked about this before the hangout. I'm really curious because I have actually some friends that eat vegan, and I also want to try this for like 30 days or 60 days. So,
Mhm.
what's your opinion on veganism and like bodybuilding?
Well, I mean, it works, right? If you get a sufficient amount of nutrients in the right way, so your body is not deficient in anything, then I mean, there's no difference between any quote unquote diet. Whatever diet you follow, if you get a sufficient amount of protein, carbs, and fats, and your electrolytes, and your micronutrients, your minerals, and your vitamins, and your water, I mean, it's gonna work. The thing with veganism in general is that I feel like a lot of people go into veganism because they're just uh, becoming more and more health conscious. So they see veganism as the only option to live healthy, which is, I mean, the first assumption of that veganism is the only healthy way to live is obviously false. And that's where a lot of people come from that are not very well educated. I mean, if you want to make veganism work with a bodybuilding kind of lifestyle, you definitely need to be extremely knowledgeable in nutrition. I'm talking about simply avoiding, just from the fact that you need to get enough protein, will require some knowledge in nutrition, so you know how to combine different kinds of foods to get enough protein, especially leucine, right? The amino acid that is primarily involved with building muscle and triggering that muscle protein synthesis. If you're not getting enough of leucine throughout your diet, if you're, let's say, your sources of protein are very uh, like bland, just have one or two sources of combined protein, it's not going to work. So seeking out complete, trying to make a combination of protein that you're going to get enough leucine is a bit of a challenge, especially if you're on a diet. If you're on a bulk, it's going to be a bit easier because you're going to have a lot more room with the calories to play around with. But on a cut, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Other stuff that besides protein, which is the biggest challenge, obviously. I mean, if you don't pile on a lot of tofu and like
Hmm.
peas and like stuff like algae, I guess would qualify to get those protein in amino acids in. And besides that, common deficiencies like B12 need to be mitigated through supplementation, mainly through supplementation. I think there's a few sources of B12, but they're not very active ingredients, so it's best to take a supplement. Other stuff, calcium, vitamin D3, very common one. That's something that you need to take care of through supplementation as well. Stuff like I think magnesium could be an issue if you don't eat a lot of nuts. That's more of a case where those with those extreme vegan diets, let's say 80-10-10, which is a very common one lately, I figured that means that 80% of calories will come from carbohydrates, 10% from fat and protein. It's a very extreme approach, hard to manage. I would not recommend going that. In general, I mean, eating unprocessed food will always yield better health benefits than eating processed food. So any approach you take, either vegan or quote unquote paleo, whatever people call it nowadays, it's going to work in that right direction. But I'm saying that it takes a massive amount of nutrition knowledge to actually make this work. And for a lot of people, it's not going to be a sustainable lifestyle if you're moving around a lot, for example, if you're traveling. Let's say you move to Croatia. I mean, good luck being a vegan in Croatia. I mean, serious. And I'm not saying that because it's impossible, but I'm saying that you're gonna have to spend the majority of your day thinking how the hell you're gonna get your uh, protein and how you're gonna get your nutrients in. And simply because the culture is not evolved around eating such foods. And same as if you go to Bulgaria or Poland or some other country. I mean, if you're in the Western Hemisphere, like somewhere in like United States, you can get away with pretty much anything. If you're in a big city, there's places where you can get all the food. You can Amazon order all these supplements. You can really have that tight system going. But I don't see the reason why you would torture yourself, in my at least opinion, that would be kind of like really going out of your way to make you're just pretty much not eating to live, you're living to eat in a certain way. So I wouldn't recommend that approach for anybody that doesn't have strong personal ideologies or religious or whatever, to go into that. So for my clients, I mean, I never recommend veganism unless they're already a vegan and they're really hardcore about it. So I mean, definitely up for a lot of debates, and there's going to be debates about it for the next at least a couple of decades until the research comes in to actually confirm some of the suspicions. I mean, so far there's pretty much not that. I mean, not much difference. So I would refrain from saying that one is better than the other. So that's simply looking at it from a scientific standpoint.
And I guess from a scientific standpoint, there is no like best diet, right? There's no such thing. I mean, paleo, veganism.
There's no best diet and there's no best ever approach for anything, right? It's all based on a specific context. So if I put someone on a vegan diet and that person lives in fucking Siberia, that person is gonna die, right? Or if that person is like an Eskimo, if you put him on a vegan diet, he's probably gonna, like, I don't know, die of like malnutrition
diabetes
or
or something,
or diabetes, right? I mean, it's depending a lot on the context, so it's really hard to make generalizations. I would say that the approach that will work for most people in most cases will be the one that you're managing your macronutrition, so you're getting sufficient amount of protein in, you're getting in your raw veggies to trigger that hormesis to strengthen your system. You're gonna get your carbs and your fats and all of your foods, 80% of them from like whole unprocessed sources, and 20% you're gonna eat whatever the fuck you want. And I'm not saying that because you want to proactively go out and eat McDonald's, but it's gonna come a time and a place where you're not gonna be able to say no. Dude, I ate like a Belgian waffle yesterday, and I ate it because, I mean, I didn't proactively seek the Belgian waffle and like ice cream, but I was in a social scenario where people are having the Belgian waffle, and I'm not gonna be a dick and say, "Hey, everybody, you're all gonna die of trans fats and diabetes and having you're screwing your insulin sensitivity," right? I'm just gonna chill out, have the damn Belgian waffle, fit it into my calories. It's gonna be 20% of my daily intake or something like that, and I'm gonna be happy, and that's it, right? And if you're consistent with that diet where 80% is whole unprocessed foods, and if you exercise, take care of your cardio health and your gym, pretty much getting stronger to take care of your bone density, and you get enough sleep, that consistency will override any small slip up that you have, let's say with like a shitty meal or food or whatever you eat. So if you look at it in the long run, there might be some spikes if you zoom in very closely, but in the long run, the health is just going up and up, right? So that's how kind of the way I look at it is being a lot more practical than I feel like most people who fall into the paleo lifestyle or anything like that. So I don't have any food restrictions like whatsoever. I mean, I'll try not to consume too much trans fat because that's the only thing that we currently have evidence that it's really harmful. But even that in like smaller amounts is insufficient to cause any long-term damage.
Yeah.
So I would say that there's no need to be OCD about it.
I like that approach. Yeah, totally agree. So I also heard a lot about like macros and calories. Do you always count your calories, or do you just do it while dieting, or what's your approach regarding that?
Well, when it comes to my personal approach, I count everything, and that's for the reason that it takes me 5 minutes a day at this point. I've done this tracking through MyFitnessPal
No, it's amazing.
for 395 days. I think that's my current streak, and before that I did like 300 days or something. So it takes me literally 5 minutes to do that, and there's no excuse for me not to do that. So I would really, I mean, advise people, if they can't get into the habit of tracking, it is a bit of a hard one to start up because I mean it's really hard to intrinsically get motivated to actually do this, but eventually you're gonna find that it's one of the most rewarding things you can do for yourself if you're really into nutrition. For most of my clients, I mean, I will advise this kind of approach, but if it fails, let's say people are really can't get the habit of tracking, you can obviously go into some lesser forms of tracking, such as tracking only your protein. So making sure that you get only your protein and that you make sure that your calories are not going over or under or whatever your goal is. So that would be like a less intense, less paranoid approach that's not going to yield 100% of results, but it's going to be pretty damn good for most people, especially if you don't have an ambition to go on stage. Then, I mean, why should you worry about that? And also depends on me if I'm in a bulk or a cut. So on a cut, I'm going to be a lot more rigorous. On a bulk, I'm just going to be a little bit more looser. And in general, I mean, if you're eating 3,000 plus calories, you can kind of estimate, as long as that weekly weight gain isn't too much, you can kind of guesstimate it. So you don't have to weigh every gram of rice. But let's say the last 2 weeks of the cut before some show or photo shoot, you're definitely going to be weighing every single fucking thing that you eat, breathe, and drink. So that's going to be like an extreme approach in that way. But for most clients, I would recommend starting with MyFitnessPal and trying to build that habit. If it doesn't work, let's try to just track protein and calories. If that doesn't work, let's just try to find like just put in some sort of self-awareness of control and how much food you ate versus how much your weekly weight has been changing, right?
Mm.
So depending on that, we'll modify things. But I mean, as I said, I mean, I'm tracking everything. If I had an option, I would always track everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So like you said, like the perfect approach would be to use MyFitnessPal to track your food every day. And then you go on your weight scale like every day. I mean, you can even put it in the app, right? Like you weight
Yeah,
every day.
you can put
And
that in
you,
your app, and
yeah,
I mean, you say perfect approach,
yeah,
but
like,
it's still there's no such thing as perfection in a way that you can manage your calories. Even the caloric label, like that, the nutrition label that you see on the back of the food, can be up to 15-20% wrong, and a lot of these things will add up. Let's say in a lot of countries, if you have 0.4%, 0.4 grams of fat, you can pretty much like round that up to zero. So that kind of thing will add up also, and all these other things.
mm-hmm.
So the one thing that a lot of people fall into, I guess I experienced with a few clients, is that they try to do MyFitnessPal and they can't do it perfect, and then they give up on it. But
Yeah.
the whole point of MyFitnessPal is not to be perfect, is to raise self-awareness of what you're eating and to have some sort of control. Because if you don't have control, your current behavior that you have will just continue to repeat itself. So if you're trying to double your intake of protein, on average you're eating 70 or 80 grams a day and you want to get to 160, you will have to proactively work and control and monitor that habit until it becomes the new you, quote unquote. Because if you don't, I mean, I have some guys, they will track their diets for a few months. They will stop tracking their diets because they feel like, okay, I've adopted the habit. But then again, when we start tracking, you see that the protein was missing, right? So it takes a while for us to actually get into a habitual change. And for that
Mm-hmm.
reason, I would say at least these two things, like calories and protein, I would recommend tracking and having some form of, I mean, you don't have to be 100% accurate, but at least 80 to percent of the time you should know what you're eating and what your weight is reflecting on that. So that would be like, if you want to get this thing under control,
Mm-hmm.
that would be my approach. And it takes, as I said, like 5 minutes a day to do, and it's no excuse not to do it. Like, I mean, we can
Right,
make up excuses, but seriously,
like your favorite book, right? No excuses.
yeah,
This is
exactly. Like you can't make an excuse about it. It's just it doesn't make any sense. So anybody who ever
yes.
did it for a few months, they know that it's a joke
It's
of how you.
amazing. Yeah. I mean, the benefits are so amazing. When I gain weight, I exactly know it's because I ate 300 calories more than the month before, and then you just cut the
Yeah,
calories.
you remove the guessing from the game, and once you
Yeah,
remove that guesswork, it's so much easier to manage. And as I said before, when you asked me what's the thing that I changed primarily, is just being more aware, like just having better tracking now than I had a few years ago when I used spreadsheets and when I was to a strict meal plan. Because there were days when I just ate something and I couldn't really account for it properly, and that those few days, and I mean, a variety of those days will compound into me not being as precise as I should be back then. But now, as I'm
mhm.
using my fitness pal, I can find any food whatsoever that I eat in the database, so it makes the whole process a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing stuff. So we actually have two questions. Matthias asks, how can you get rid of unequal muscle size? Like, for example, the triceps on the left side is smaller than on the right.
I see. So it's a question of muscular imbalance on the left and
Yes.
right side. Is that yeah, that's he says triceps, right? So what you can do is what I recommend for most people is simply starting the movement with a single arm movement with that weaker arm first when you're more rested. So that would be one of the ways that you can just put that part more to work. And you want to also switch more from like doing single arm movements. So let's say you're doing those overhead dumbbell push up, like how do they call, like overhead dumbbell press, right, for triceps. So you want to do those with a single arm instead of doing both arms at the same time. You also want to switch from cable push downs with two arms to doing them with a single arm. And you want to start with the weaker arm first. Another thing that you could do is always throw in a few extra sets on days that you're not using your triceps. So let's say you start your leg day with a few extra sets on that weaker side, and that is if the imbalance is extremely noticeable. In most cases, the imbalance will fix itself simply as you go through your lifting career. I had an imbalance of left and right side of my biceps, but it fixed itself as I started doing weighted chins and doing all these things. So the weaker arm had to work its way up to compensate for the fact that I couldn't like just finish the lift without it. So eventually the pressure will come on it. But as I said, if you want to be proactive about it, add more volume to that weaker side. Do the weaker side first. So switch from the two-handed movements to single arm movements. That's helping a lot. And simply hit the muscle from all angles, same as you would do in like every other muscle group. So with the triceps, like hit something where the muscle is lengthened, where it's shortened, where it's the middle position, where it's just in a consistent tension phase. So
Mhm.
movements such as overhead press, like overhead extensions, like push downs, close grip push-ups, and let's say some kind of triceps machine where you would just keep the consistent tension on it. So you hit it from all angles, and I mean, with the triceps, it's involved in so many movements that it's gonna fix itself if you simply apply a little bit of that proactiveness with the single arm movements, because it's involved in overhead pressing and bench pressing. It's
Mhm.
a minor imbalance that's going to definitely resolve itself.
Nice. And also a question from Vladislav. How many calories or protein for a bulk period a day? That's a good one.
He asked how many calories from
Calories.
protein.
Yeah, it's protein.
All right. The protein amount is always based on the lean body mass you have. So the amount of protein that you eat, I mean, multiply by 4 will give you the amount of calories. But the amount of protein you're gonna eat is pretty much consistent throughout your lifting career because the lean body mass that you gain won't be that much different. So let's say if you're, I don't know, you weigh 180 pounds and you have 165 pounds of lean body mass, your protein will be somewhere between the range of 0.83 to 1.3 grams per pound of lean body mass. So that's going to be ranging from 140 grams to, let's say, 190 grams, and that's your range. So the range depends on your lifting career. If you're a guy who's new to lifting, you can go a little bit higher in that range. So let's say a gram per pound is a very conservative and nice method to just simplify things. But I mean, if you're gonna be really like OCD scientific about it, it's gonna be in that range. The higher protein demand will be necessary for like endurance athletes just to maintain muscle mass. But if you're a guy who's just lifting heavy in the gym, you're trying to bulk up, protein definitely, there's no need to go over 1 gram per pound. So however much weight you have right now, you just multiply that and just take that much protein and get those calories from protein. That's going to be fine. And the other macros will be divided depending on what your preference is, where you want to go to either carbs or fats. But protein is pretty consistent, I would say. And most people eat too much protein. You can make a diet a lot more enjoyable if you just don't eat like unnecessary amounts of protein. And that's where I see a mistake with a lot of people. You see like intakes of 200 grams plus for guys who are 150 pounds. It's
Yeah.
just, there's no point in going that high in protein.
I did this actually when I was like when I started like 120 pounds. I had like 200 grams of protein. Like kind of
Yeah, I
shitty.
mean, it kills your. I mean, it's not that bad in a way that it improves satiety if you're on a diet, but if you're in a bulk, it just makes the bulk extremely hard. I mean, you could do like milk and things like that, but if you're intolerant, you're gonna have to drink your calories through smoothies. Or I did make a bulking video how to do that. You just have to drink majority of your calories and your protein. It's just an overkill. There's no need to go like that high
Mm-hmm.
amount of protein, especially for a natural guy who is like between, I don't know, between, I guess I don't even have a client that we had to go over 180 grams of protein a day. Like
Mm-hmm.
even the big guys, it's, if you take their lean body mass into account, usually it's about 180 would be the max I would ever go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you want to bulk, you have your protein intake always the same, and then you can play with the carbs and the fats, right?
Yeah, the protein
Or-
intake, I mean, on a bulk is even less important than on a cut, because on a
Mhm.
cut, at least you can change the protein to add a little bit of satiety, which is necessary, let's say, for female clients or athletes that I have, is I need to increase a little bit of that protein because it helps them stay fuller. Yes, on a, let's say, on a 1,500 calorie diet or like a 1,200 calorie diet, you definitely want to have that protein a little bit higher. Or if you're a guy on a 1,600 calorie diet, or some, for some reason, I don't know why, but let's say for some reason you're on a 1,600 calorie diet, you want to have at least some degree of that higher protein because it's going to keep you fuller than if you just go into carbs and fats. So yeah, for a bulk, it's going to be pretty consistent. It's going to be overall consistent. Like protein is overall going to be consistent regardless of a cut or a bulk. So there's no need for increasing protein on a cut, and that there's been a lot of research done on that. And one common one that is mentioned is from a guy named called Eric Helms, another guy that just did a few reviews on it. It's called Menno Henselman, so you can check out his stuff. He's also doing some of the research on how much protein do you need in a cut from a bulk. And I think the primary consensus is that it's just pretty much gram per pound will do for most people. So everything else is just overcomplication of one simple thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. I've also a question from Felix. He asks, how can you gain muscles if you go out regularly, almost every day? I mean, not enough sleep. How can you do it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that is the right context, that when people are giving out programs and they're giving out routines, for example, in like Felix's situation right now, he can't even get enough sleep, right? So his highest return on investment for gaining muscle and burning fat, for example, would be to get more sleep, not optimizing his plan further. So what I would say in that situation is the minimum amount of training that I would recommend for someone in any situation would be 3 times a week, would be full structured in a full body. So if you're training more than 3 times a week, you could reduce that to 3 times a week so you get a little bit more time. The second thing obviously would be optimizing your diet. That, as I said before, with the protein, carbs, and macros, you want to keep track of everything. With the sleep, if you don't have enough time to sleep, you can incorporate things like naps. Maybe once a week, you would just pay off your sleeping debt completely, sleep like 12 to 14 hours, and there's no way to go around bad sleep. I mean, I know going out a lot is also highly influencing your caloric intake, so you probably want to add up some calories there as well if you're not able to build muscle because you're just expanding so much calories throughout like walking around all the time, dancing or whatever. You're just gonna have to eat a lot more calories, and how much more, again, you want to see how much you're gaining per week, right? If you're a natural bodybuilder or just a natural guy who's want to looks lean and strong, if you've been lifting for a year or two, anything above half a pound a week will probably be fat. So you want to make sure that you don't gain too fast, but you want to make sure that you're gaining. So in a way, it's about finding the balance where you're going to get enough sleep through increasing the quality of your sleep as well through like earplugs, sleeping mask, dark room, cutting out the blue light, getting enough naps, cutting out every time wasting activity that you have in your life, TV, social media. You want to, I mean, you want to find time, dude. There's time. There's same amount of time that I have, Charlie here has, everybody has 24 hours in a day, and we find time to do everything. I didn't believe that I could sleep 9 hours, but then again, I just installed this app that monitors my time. I think it's called Rescue Time. And I noticed, shit, I spent so much time just looking at my fucking email. So if I just add an hour, I'll just look at my email and my Facebook for an hour and combine less today, and I'm gonna have an hour extra to sleep. I mean, you definitely want to be self-aware of where you spend your time, and then you want to invest that time. Even when you go out, do you really need to stay up late, like burn it to the ground style, or can you actually be more efficient, right? Could you be a lot more efficient with that? If you go out, do you waste time, or do you actually spend that time productively? I'm not an expert in that area, but I know that if you do go out, you want to make the most out of your time. Or do you need to even go out 6 times a week? Maybe you can get the same with 3 times a week, right? If you apply yourself a bit more. And these kind of things are all finding a balance and a trade-off, which is one of the things that I've done myself. I mean, obviously, I've been going out to improve my social skills, been in periods where I would go out 7 days a week. I would still train,
Yeah,
but
man.
the point is that I was concerned about the balance. I didn't let my priorities get mixed up. I was still having the health and fitness as number one, and I would sleep in. And even if I had, like, for my job, for example, one of the primary reasons why I quit my job was that I couldn't get enough sleep because I'm a night person and I had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning. So I just said, "Fuck this." I mean, I'm just gonna do something on my own. I became a freelancer, right? So looking into pretty much always having that control, right? Like always have putting that control in you. Okay, what are the areas of my life that I can change to make sure that everything can work? Because you do want to balance all four. You want to balance your purpose, business, like your
Mhm.
social skills and your health always, right? So you want to see what is preventing me from doing that right now? What is preventing me from sleeping? You want to slowly cut that down, whatever it is, right? If it's like, I don't know, wasting an hour on Tinder a day, right?
Goodness.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, shit like that will screw guys up, right? They will.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely to some extent, right? I'm not saying that never enjoy life. It's all like Spartan lifestyle, fuck everything, discipline. But still, having some form of self-awareness, self-control, and looking at more of like planning and like as a Brian Tracy, I think he said like 10 minutes of planning saves an hour of fucking execution. So
Yeah.
if you plan out your day, even what you're gonna eat the next day, you're gonna have more time because you're gonna think less and worry less about what you're gonna eat. Stuff like meal prep saves a whole week of worrying about food, right? That's how you can get more sleep. And these little things, there's many things you can implement, but like thinking outside of the box and just trying to balance out things, I think
Mhm.
that's one thing that I've had to adopt just due to travel and doing all these things.
Yeah, man. I mean, not enough sleep will kill you. I even realize it sometimes when I sleep like 4 or 3 hours, even my willpower is decreased. And when your willpower is decreased, dude, you don't want that, man. You don't want that
There's been
happen.
a lot of research on sleep deprivation, a lot of research. So I think one of the most common ones that is mentioned is they actually took two groups of people on a diet, and the group that only got 5 hours of sleep versus the group that got 8 hours of sleep, lost about 20% of fat and 80% of muscle from all the weight they lost. And the group that got 8 hours lost about 50-50. So when you don't get enough sleep, in terms of simply building muscle and losing fat, is that you build less muscle, you burn less fat, and you gain more fat and you gain a lot less muscle. I mean, just saying a different way. So everything is influenced by that. Your body will crave for carbohydrates more because it's going to use sugar more as energy than fat. So you're definitely going to be burning even your current fat a lot less. So you're more prone to storing fat from your dietary intake. Another thing is that, as he mentioned here, Charlie said the willpower. It's a massive, massive, massive influence. Like if your willpower is down, you're going to find yourself 4 or 5 hours before you have to, like before you go to bed, you're gonna find yourself craving a ton of sugar, like sugar, fat, and salt, like the golden ratio of foods. You're gonna be craving those a lot, and then it's really hard to say no. I mean, maybe you're gonna say no to the first temptation, but then second one, third one, gonna kick in, and in that stage, when you eat that food, it's gonna be a lot more harmful for your long-term progress. So definitely sleep, one of the biggest things that guys get wrong. I would say with everything, happiness in general, not just not just muscles and abs and girls,
Mhm.
happiness, right?
Mhm.
So that would be the primary reason why I sleep enough.
Mhm. Yeah, amazing, big one. So, like as a last question, it's actually one from me. We always talk about like natural bodybuilders, and what's like in your opinion, what's like a genetic max of most people? What can most guys expect, like working out naturally?
Well, that's a question that I've actually been fascinated by a lot myself. And what you can expect is a lot more than what most people think, but it's also a lot less than what they expect. Right? People are having expectations that they're gonna look like Ronnie Coleman or like Jay Cutler or someone, and I mean that's people usually when you talk to them they'll say, "Oh man, I don't want to look too big," like I don't want to be too big. Obviously, that's if you never lifted before, you think you're gonna get big from doing a few sets of bench pressing.
Mhm.
In general, I mean the genetic potential. I think the some of the numbers that we could pull out real quick here is that I think that in the first year of training, I think Lyle McDonald put out numbers. I think his were like 25 pounds of muscle would be expected to gain in the first year if you don't everything perfectly, or if you done everything perfect, 25 pounds of lean mass in the first year. If you have no experience whatsoever, second year of training would be half of that. So let's say from 25 you build like 10 to 12. Afterwards, you're gonna be able to build like 5 or 6 pounds per year. So I'm not saying per month. This is per year. And afterwards, it's gonna be very tiny amounts. So 5+ years of intelligent training is gonna be a very little amount. So if you put all that together, let's say a lifetime goal of a natural, if you start bodybuilding in let's say your early 20s, probably be about 35 pounds, right, of lean body mass. And you might think like 35, 40 pounds. So you might think that's like not a lot, but that makes a huge fucking difference in someone. Because if you look at, let's say, look at a picture of an actor, that actor has probably about 150 pounds of lean body mass or even less, right? And most people will say that he's looking fucking jacked. And like Chris Hemsworth from like Thor and
Mhm.
people like that, you would think that these guys are looking at absolutely amazing, but they don't have that much lean body mass if you really take away all the like fat, the mineral, and all that bone mass. So having that 35 pounds, it's not that it's not that bad, and that's with perfect training. So most people, I mean, they will never reach that, and there are obviously people who are genetically gifted who will reach that a lot easier. There are people who will never reach that because they just don't have the genetics and they don't have the willpower, and they just don't have the time, right? People don't have that as a priority, and that's something that we want to look at when someone asks me, okay, how much you can gain, is, dude, like, is that the only thing you want to do in your life? If it is, okay, here's how much you could potentially gain. But again, I mean, do you want to sacrifice every little thing in your life for that specific thing if you want to like make that huge sacrifice to gain a little bit more like muscle? Does that make really that much of a difference? I like the question in this book that I'm just reading. It's called The Practicing Mind. So the author likes to add when someone states a fact, let's say, oh yeah, that guy broke a record for a marathon, and the author says like, then what, right? You just ask, then what, right? Because it's not about the actual result. It's just simply, what do you do when you get the result, right? It's not just the result. It's obviously the process and the enjoyment of this. So I would say, I mean, if you focused on this, you can get that 30 magic 35, 40 pounds of lean body mass. But overall, you're gonna be a healthier person. You're gonna look fucking awesome. You're gonna have a better, happier life. That's like something that you can never even put a price on. When you get 60, people won't have to like clean your shit and take you to the toilet because you're gonna be healthy enough to actually take care of yourself. So you don't have to be a burden to your
Yeah.
surroundings, which a lot of people who neglect their health become, because they just simply pass on that responsibility eventually to someone else. Let's say you're 70 years old and you never lifted anything in your life. You suffer from diabetes and you suffer from dementia, and I don't know, you can't even like wipe your own ass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that person will probably live for another 10 years through the health system, and like through simply because we're so well adapted to like live longer now. Then that person will be a burden for 10 years for every single person around them. So do you want to be that person, right? Do you want to take that much value out of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to look at these kind of things, and that's one of the reasons why you lift, is to increase your quality of your life and be a healthier person, not just to have a little bit less body fat and try to impress someone on social media. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's you, but a lot of people will fall into that because we're so focused on the result, because the whole education system and our parents, unfortunately most of our parents, brainwash us into thinking it's all results, like it's all having good grades, it's all getting the car, getting the house, getting the degree, getting the fucking thing, right? It's always a thing that you have to get. So it's
Mm-hmm.
never like doing stuff that is actually improving your right now, like your present self, like your life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I would say. I mean, it's a little bit of a side tangent
Yeah,
from
man.
the actual question, but it is relevant in a way when everybody, anytime I got asked, what is the end result? I think that can come from a place where there's not enough focus on the actual process and why we're doing this, because it's definitely not going to be the result. Because if you're doing it for the result, I mean, it's not gonna work out the best in most cases, from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm. I really like this ending, because I also always say it's not about what you get, it's what you become on this whole journey. It's really cool how you become more disciplined through the gym, and yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I love it. Because the thing is, I'm not much more happy about the results I get. It's just like the person I became.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely. I mean, I can say that there's no absolute difference between. I mean, you are happy for that moment when you reach. Let's say you measure yourself with a caliper and it says 7% body fat, and you're like, finally, like thank God, it's all over now. And then you're
Yeah.
actually like, I don't know, under that, maybe under the effect of that for like a day or two, but then the third day kicks in, and then okay, what do I do now? I mean, let's go to the gym, like
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
let's continue the process, right? And
Yeah.
that's the same with everything. And we try to, you mean you can try to get that hunger for outcome through like buying things, doing all these things, but it's never really gonna make you happy. One
Mm-hmm.
cool thing that you can, a book that you can read on this called the Happiness Hypothesis. It's really
Oh
good.
well, it's actually here. When I show it for the people.
Probably
Yeah.
have it there. Like the Happiness Advantage as well. It's a pretty good one. All the books on happiness that you can find, I would suggest reading, as happiness is
Amazing.
definitely something that you need to
There's one.
learn how to be happy. Exactly. Yeah, that's the one that Jonathan hates. Because you want to learn how to be happy, and that's a skill set. And most people are not looking at happiness as a skill set. They're looking at more as like either a result or a byproduct of something, but it's much more similar to a skill set than it is to just getting the outcome. Even like being in flow itself isn't the end result of like just to be happy. There's a lot more things going on here. So yeah, I mean, definitely check out those books. I would recommend that.
Mhm.
Just read more in general.
It's not about materialistic things. It's about knowledge.
Yeah, you
Yes, I
gotta
love
get a
him.
shout out to Tai.
Hey, I love this guy. Like one day I will do a webinar with him, I swear. But I guess he will like talk 3 hours straight, without a question.
Yeah, Tai is very knowledgeable, so you could just leave him, and he's gonna be on his own, and he's gonna give you
Yeah,
enough. Don't
yeah.
have to ask him anything.
But have you met him actually?
I haven't met him in person, but I'm actually planning to. I mean, when I end up in LA, I'll probably meet up.
Sick dude. Sick. Yeah. Amazing stuff. And I love reading. It's amazing. About reading, really quick, do you have good like books for people about nutrition, about fitness, gym, like these basic books, the best books?
Well, about nutrition specifically, I guess I could recommend the Lean Muscle Diet from Alan Aragon. I would say that
Mhm.
one is really good. There's for training, the Max Muscle Plan is pretty good from Brad Schoenfeld. You're definitely going to learn a lot from it. The other nutrition stuff, I mean, if you want to read something more advanced, you could go into like Advanced Human Metabolism Nutrition. That's a pretty, I
Oh
guess, a
yeah.
complicated book for most people. Anything written by Lyle McDonald, let's say like flexible dieting, even the ketogenic diet, the ultimate diet, all these books are really, really good. The protein book is awesome as well. If you want to learn everything about protein. For training, strength training anatomy is pretty good. Stuff like Starting Strength, that's a pretty good book from Mark Ripito. His book on periodization is really good as well. How to like periodize training, how to actually like structure training properly. I think that's one of the books that will help people a lot. I mean, it's definitely a sea of books out there that you could look into. Even the like Modern Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, these books are all good, and again, you want to be able to put the content into the right context. So if you read something from a book, you always want to make sure, okay, what is the context of the situation that this advice can be applied? And that's where I see a lot of people make a mistake. They will read an article online saying that, let's say, the article will say you need to squat if you want to build muscle. Obviously, that's true, but in a context that the person can actually squat and that person hasn't torn their ACL 4 times, right? Because if that person had torn their ACL and they can't squat because due to lack of mobility, obviously squat is not the best movement for them. And in general, that's why a lot of confusion in fitness world is made, is because people are not looking at the right context of the content they're consuming. And one reason to blame, I guess, if you want to blame, is that the majority of gurus and the content that you are exposed to, they don't put enough effort into putting the right context in. So the message gets distorted easily because it can be interpreted in multiple ways. As any nuance point you try to make, you can interpret that in many, many different ways. Even I just said a recommendation how much protein you should eat for someone who's in a bulk. I mean, that's true if that person doesn't have kidney damage. That person is going to suffer from kidney failure. Obviously, she shouldn't eat that much protein. I mean, I'm not saying protein damages kidneys again, but simply if someone doesn't have healthy kidneys, right? You see that it's like it's a lot more complicated to give out advice than most people are aware of, and
Mhm.
that's something that I guess I rant a little bit about in a lot of the interviews or places I got asked, even in person or from my clients, is that understanding the context of the situation changes everything. So every single thing has to be put in the right context in order to be able to be applied in the right way. Because you can apply all these things in a very wrong way. So you tell someone protein is good, they're gonna end up eating 500 grams of protein a day,
Yeah.
and they're gonna end up like, I don't know, with like a digestive tract disorder or something, right? So it's same as like taking veganism, as you mentioned here. You take veganism to an extreme where I know people are just gonna eat fruits and 90% of their calories from fruits, and I don't know, some thing that can like the major thing that happens, like besides being nutrient deficient and completely screwing yourself up, low energy levels and everything, is your teeth are gonna erode and gonna fall out, right? I mean, it's again about the balance and the context. So all these things are good and great, but once again, I mean that they can be also horrible for some people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like your approach. It's all about context. Yeah. So to end with, Felix asks, what's your program? Online coaching or what exactly?
Yeah, I have
Nice.
a transformation program that I run online. It's a 6-month program where people can work with me directly, and I'm super picky who I choose. But if you're, I guess, the kind of guy who is ready to pull the trigger and do the 6-month transformation, I work with people who are normally between 20 and 35, guys mainly. We get this thing handled completely. I cover 4 areas. I mean, there's nothing without full coverage, which is training, nutrition, mindset, and recovery. That's the 4 areas I do pretty much so far. And you can find the program on shockingfit.com on my website. Click
Mm-hmm.
coaching. There's a bunch of success stories there as well, like transformation photos. The success rate is extremely high, and that's simply because I try to work with people on a very personal mentoring kind of basis. I don't have coaches. I like to work with a small amount of people that I can deal with myself, so I can give them the maximum attention they need to actually succeed in this. And this is something I wish I had, for example, when I was starting out, to someone to actually mentor me and talk to me on a weekly basis and really put me through the right process, so I don't have to waste
Mm-hmm.
time. So I think time is the missing thing here for most of us. It's the only thing that we don't have basically. So I try
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
optimize around time.
Nice. It's shockingfit.com, right? I just posted it.
Yeah, that's my
Shocking.
website. And there's like a link
Nice.
for coaching. There's a link for my transformation. There's a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
articles there. There's everything. That's besides my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the thing where I used to post a lot more before. Now I just post, let's say, a few times a week. So it is a website that you can also download my free workout plan as well, which is pretty intense. It's like 40-page
Mm-hmm.
guide to everything pretty much you need to know about that workout plan and
It's
training.
called Lean and Strong, right? I saw it on the website.
Yeah, yeah.
Lean and Strong. Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, guys, check out his YouTube channel. He started to post more videos. I saw that. So,
Yeah, by more, I mean like going from
awesome.
like 2, 3 per week to every day.
Yeah, it's cool, but I like it. It's also really, I like your. It's very scientific. There's no bro science in there.
I try to
It's
keep
really,
the bros out as much as I can. Even I
yeah,
find myself falling into the bro science at some point, just because I've been exposed to it so long.
yeah.
But I mean, it is trying to. I mean, mostly scientific. Like everything has to be grounded at least to some degree in science or in evidence, and that's kind of how we can put the things again into the right application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. So, guys, I will also post the website of our convention if you are interested in it. It's called the Lifestyle Design Convention. It will take place next month in Zurich. And you will gather like entrepreneurs, coaches, and also all the people that just want to improve their life. Not just in regard to fitness, it's like the 4 pillars, how we said, like health, wealth, love, and happiness, like Tai Lopez says. And yeah, we try to grow together. We try to crush it. So if you want, check it out. And yeah, so the best way to contact you, Mario, is through your homepage. Is this right? Your homepage.
Yeah, the best way, I guess, to keep in touch would be through my Facebook page. You can just
Mm-hmm.
put in my name or just link the Facebook page,
Mm-hmm.
facebook.com/shockingfit. Or YouTube, I reply to every comment. I'm in that like thank you economy style, basically replying to everything. I try to make
Nice.
myself as approachable as I can, which is something in the
Mm.
fitness industry that a lot of people are, I mean, I might not reply to your email immediately or to your comment right that instant, but I will go out of my way for a few times a week to really go through everything and make sure that I reply to people and communicate with people, because I feel in the fitness industry, that's one thing that's missing, is the actual contact with the people. So you can get caught up in all these studies and all this crap, and most people are having very specific problems, and that's something you want to fix, not just look at what's being researched. So yeah, that's a few things you can do to follow, is get on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page, and that's the best ways. The website, obviously, if you get the free workout, that's gonna serve you for a few months for sure.
Yeah, nice, man. I realized that when I asked you for the webinar, like you just like replied, and really humble guy, really cool stuff. So that's nice, man. Stay on
Yeah,
the
thanks, man.
rise. Stay on the rise, as you say.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like your that they're ending there. So always stay on the rise. Yeah.
yeah, man. Always, you need to, man. You need to. That's a way of life. That's how we roll. So have a nice evening, guys. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, hit me up. And yeah,
Yeah,
stay
thanks
on
for
the
having me,
rise.
Charlie, and see you soon.
No problem, man.
Yeah.
Nice.